Alright guys, so I'm back with another video. In today's video I'm going to be redoing the GitHub setup, but this also works for the partial download. So if you purchase the direct download and you go in here and you read this, you'll see that you can request full access to the full project from me from Google Drive, but due to differing time zones, you may need to wait a bit. When you first buy it though, the direct download anyway, you'll get direct access to a partial, and all that is the zipped up GitHub repository. So the same setup applies to this. It's just that for the direct download partial, you can do it in reverse. It doesn't matter. So anyway, let's get started. First off, I'll go over the direct or the cloning process. When you purchase access to this private repository, this is private, I'll have to go into settings and add you as a collaborator. So for the repo, you'll just have to wait. It's just how it is. The reason why I kept those two separate is because I'm trying to reduce the amount of people on the repo, because some people, they just want direct access to the download. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. So after you've been given access to the repo version, you can come over here to the code and you can open with GitHub Desktop. And if you've already cloned it, then it won't do nothing. But if you haven't cloned it, then it'll show a window up here. When I do the updates, it'll show a pull request here, and you can go to the history to look at the updates and the other information on those updates. So yeah, that's how that works. However, if you don't get that window, or you're not using GitHub Desktop for whatever reason, you can download GitHub Desktop and you can copy this link. If you want to do this from the console, you can also do this from the command prompt if you've downloaded that part of Git, but I'm not going to show how to do that. There's videos on how to do that. So you can go to File, Clone Repository in the GitHub Desktop, and you can go to URL. You can paste that there. It'll probably automatically choose a local path for you on your C drive. For me, it chose my E drive. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and clone it into that folder. It'll only take a second because it's less than 100 megabytes. The reason why I'm only doing the partial download or the partial project on the GitHub repo is because LFS or large file storage is expensive, and the first month I did that, it cost me $65. And back then I wasn't charging for repo access. I had to start charging for repo access because people started abusing it, and yeah, so I'm not going to go into that, but I did do a video somewhere where I discussed that if you want to go and look for it. So anyway, once you've cloned it, the next thing you need to do is you need to go into the Epic Game Store, and you need to look for the game animation sample, and you'll see it right here. Now, one thing you need to know is if you downloaded this stuff pre-Fab, before Fab was launched, and you go to create the project, you'll only see 5.4. 5.5 will not show up, and that's a bug. Whenever Fab was released, any thing in your vault, any cached data in your vault, will prevent the Fab version from showing up. So you can go to your settings and you can come down here to edit vault cache location, and I've already set mine to my F drive, but you can change yours like I did mine so that you can find it easier if you want. But what you need to do is you need to clear out that vault cache so that these projects will be able to pick up the Fab versions, because the old versions are not going to update anymore. So after you've done that, you can create a 5.5 version of the project, and I'm going to choose my location. I'm going to put it here in my E drive. and I'm just going to call _2. And it will clone it. It shouldn't take but a second. In my case, I've only downloaded the 5.5 version, not the 5.4 version. Make sure you did make the 5.5 version. Don't try to use this with 5.4. I've already upgraded the project to 5.5. You're going to have to use 5.5. It's not going to work with 5.4 anymore. If for some reason you want the 5.4 version, you can contact me. But I've fixed a lot of problems with it since then, so I won't offer much support in terms of that. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to go to my E drive. And so this is the one I cloned. This is the one I just created the game animation simple project of. If you have the partial download, then you can just copy that into this folder and you can extract all, and you can just do this, remove that last part and extract it. Or if you have 7-zip, you can go to show more, 7-zip, and extract here. And then when it asks you to override the config file, say yes. You want to override their config file with mine if you're doing it this way. But if you have the repo version, you're just going to copy all of this and you're going to go into the cloned version. It's not going to have any project files or anything. And you're going to paste it here. Now I copied the config file too, and so it's going to ask me if I want to overwrite the DAO config file. And normally you would say no, but since people keep screwing that up, no offense, it's easy to mess up. But since people keep accidentally doing that, I'm going to show you what happens if you do. So I'm going to replace the config file. You wouldn't want to, but I'm going to do it anyway just to show you what happens if you do. So now I'm just going to open up the project. It's going to create the derived data cache folder, intermediate and saved. And it will only take a minute to open up. So I'm trying to cover every possible situation in here. So because of the way that serialization works and stuff like that, it may actually work even though that you overrode the config files. But just in case, you should always check this to make sure that you didn't override the config files. You'll go into your, you'll go to Edit, Project Settings, and go to Gameplay Tags. And you should have 2 entries in this Gameplay Tag table list. If you don't, add 2 entries. And then we're going to add those gameplay tags back. So I'm going to go into the content drawer, DAO. And one of them is under Blueprints Data. That's the primary GT data tags. And if you open that up, you'll see these are for the held object states and stances. So the other one is going to be under character, under DAO characters metahuman data. And these are only for the metahumans. So if you're not using metahumans, you don't have to worry about this. But I'm going to select the GT metahuman tags table, and I'm going to add it there. And this is just for the bodies. It helps me cycle through the bodies and that body blueprint. It's not actually necessary, but if you want it to play around with the body blueprint, this one right here, then you're going to need it. Because if we go into this, then we go to the, let's see, the event graph. I'm going to zoom out. Yeah, so down here, I'm just cycling through these tags. And right here, I'm actually storing the males in a separate one and the females in a separate one. And then I'm just cycling through that, and I'm adding those and choosing from a chooser table. So right here, actually, is where I'm actually choosing the metahuman stuff. And in actuality, I only have the meshes in here. And I'm asynchronously loading them as well, as you can see here. There's not much of a delay for loading those asynchronously, and it saves memory because it doesn't create chain dependencies where it has to load all those meshes into memory at game start, which is why I do that. It's good practice to know when to use soft references and when not to. So anyway, that's the basic rundown on that. So let's go ahead and set up the project. There's just one thing you need to do after this, or two things you need to do. You need to go to your world settings and expand the selected game mode. And right here, you'll see that we have the original sandbox character. We're going to go under DAO, char data, and select mine. And we're going to press this back button here. You can also expand this by clicking on that line and dragging it to be able to see it more. And then just press the back button and then hover over and make sure that it's the one that has DAO on the end. So all my files are, they have DAO in them so that you can distinguish them from the originals and you won't get confused. So that's basically it for getting that part set up. Now you're going to go into the character blueprint, select the mesh, and open up the UEFN skeletal mesh. You can also get to it from characters, UEFN, and meshes. So it's also under here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I'm no longer actually using virtual bones for the feet. There was one project where for some weird reason, it was actually causing problems. So I decided to stop doing that. In some cases, you might actually want to use virtual bones instead of IK bones. For example, if you retarget all these animations, IK bones get messed up. Guaranteed. Every single time you retarget from one character to another, your IK bones will get messed up. It's not a question. It's just a fact. So anyway, we're just going to create virtual bones on the hand. So on the hand L, I'm going to have it point from the hand L to the hand R. And for this one, it actually doesn't matter much. There's a bug in here actually, and you'll see it here in a minute. I'll show it to you. And what happens is whenever you create these virtual bones, and by the way, you're going to name this one just hand_R. And whenever you create the virtual bones, you'll notice that it suddenly freezes up. That has something to do with motion matching. It's somehow tied to that. I don't know how, but it is. And it breaks it. So it breaks motion matching, and you're going to see that here in a minute. And that's because I have my own database, my own version of their database in here that I'm using. And for some reason, you need to restart the project in order for it to fix it. I don't know why it can't do it during runtime, but it can't for some reason, at least currently. Hopefully they fix that in the future. So on this one, I'm going to go from the hand R to the hand L. It's going to freeze up again. So while it's frozen, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you why we're creating virtual bones. So virtual bones give us a reference so that if I say if I additively apply breathing over the top of an animation, I can go back in time and look at the virtual bone and say, okay, that's where his hand was before I applied this breathing. And then I can tell the 2bone IK to place his hand where it was before I applied the breathing in relation to the other hand. The right hand, for example, I can place the left hand where it was in relation to the right hand before I applied that breathing. And so they work just like IK bones, only you don't have to. And yeah, just rename this one to hand L, and it's going to freeze up after you rename it until they fix that. But yeah, that's basically it. So they're just references. You can achieve the same thing with IK bones, only with virtual bones, you don't have to constrain and bake those for every single animation manually from an animation authoring software like Maya or Blender or Cascader or something like that. So it allows you to skip that step. So now that we've created our virtual bones for the hands, that's basically it. Normally that would be the setup and it would work, but now it's not going to work. So you'll see it's not working, and we're getting these messages down here saying something about invalid search result and all this other weird stuff. So that's the problem I was telling you about. The only way to actually fix this, I think, is to restart the project. But actually, it might actually be doing that now because it looks like it's going through these. So if I just wait until this finishes, then we might be good. So let's just wait and see. Basically, what it's having to do is it's having to rebuild these post search databases. And that's why you see this information going through the output log at the moment. So it looks like it did some. So I'm just going to save this. It should be safe to save it. I don't think that did it. Okay, it actually did do it. Okay. So that fixed it. So you may just have to give it some time. If it doesn't, if you wait until all that stuff goes by and it still doesn't work, then you can close the project and restart it. And when you start it back up, you'll get a progress bar right here, and it'll start saying stuff about rebuilding post search databases and stuff like that. Just let it finish, and then it should be fixed. So maybe it's not a bug. Maybe it's just something you have to give a little time for it to complete. But they should make it more obvious that it's doing that. And you'll see now that it should be working fine. So this actually went quite a bit smoother than I thought it would. Last time I restarted the project and it fixed it. I didn't realize that if you just waited, it would fix it. So now we know that. Okay, so the next part of this is if you want to test out my characters in here, then what we need to do is we need to replace their characters on the widget with mine. So I'm going to open up, if you go to their widgets folder and open up the game animation widget, you'll see theirs are right here. And I'm going to replace theirs with mine. So these last two, I do not have a version of mine for these last two, but we'll replace all these other ones. So we'll go ahead and start with my character blueprint. So we'll go into char data, select my character blueprint, select theirs, and replace the reference. And then we'll go into my character folder, go to the echo. That's their character folder. Make sure you're under DAO characters and select echo, select theirs, select it in here and press the back button. And I'm just going to go through here and I'm going to replace all of theirs with mine. So for the metahumans at the moment, I only have the body type that Kellen uses zeroed in, but over the weekend I'll zero in all the other 17 body types so that you guys don't have to. It'll save you a little bit of work. Well, I should say it'll save you a lot of work actually. So yeah, I'm going to replace the Twin Blaster. I'll replace this guy. I'll replace this guy and Quinn. And that's it. And now, if I open this up, and I just walk over this, yours will open up automatically when you walk over it, but I got mine docked over here to the side. So I'm going to press this and it'll automatically switch. You'll notice that the weapon is on the ground. I forgot to show y'all how to fix that. That's fine. Now you know what happens if you don't add the socket. So if you eject and right click and just open him up, or you could go back to the widget and you could just select him here and double click on his reference and it'll open up his blueprint. So we can just select him in here or select him right here. And then we can open up his skeletal mesh, and we don't need to adjust the offset of the socket. We just need to create the socket. So let's go back over here and go to the event graph. And I named all these sockets for all these characters the same. So it's called held object underscore R. Right now, I only have this set up for right-handed weapons. I'll add support for left-handed weapons in the future. So I'm going to add a socket here, and I'm going to rename it to held object underscore R. And that should be it for him. Now, whenever we run this, you'll see that he's holding it and he's firing. So if you fire in the middle of a recoil, it'll be inaccurate, as you can see. Now, I do have a breathing additive that is set up inside of the linked anim layers, but they're disconnected by default because when we're zeroing in our aim for these guys, we want to, what we want to do is when we're zeroing in the aim, we want the breathing to not be messing with our aim results. And so if you shoot and you see those two line traces, the green and the green one is pointing towards the center of the screen, and the blue one is pointing down the barrel of the rifle. And the numbers that are showing up over here on the left, the P, Y, and R, those are actually, that's actually the rotational offset values. That stands for pitch, yaw, and I don't know what R stands for, to be honest. Roll, pitch, yaw, and roll. So yeah, so I'm not going to go into zeroing in these in this one. I just wanted to show you guys how this worked. So if we come over here and we open up the game animation widget, and I'll just select this guy and open up this guy. And like I said, you can do it this way, or you can just select it in here. This is the live retargeted character. A lot of people think that that they don't want to use live retargeting, but I'm going to tell you right now that you only have two options. You can either use live retargeting and use the method that I present you with, or for example, if you're using metahuman characters, there's 18 different body types. For each differing body type, you will need to, if you don't use my method and you want to retarget it to these characters, you're not going to be able to just retarget it to one and it work for all of them. Even if you share the same skeleton amongst all of them, like these metahumans are, there's going to be anatomy offsets, which means that you're going to have to retarget this entire animation system to all 18, and then you're going to have to modify all the weapon holding animations or poses so that each one of them holds them right. And that is one approach you can take to this, but it's going to be a lot more memory intensive because you're multiplying the amount of animations in memory by a factor of 18. And if you have more, if you're using Character Creator, every single character you bring in, and let's say you bring in 100 characters, for all 100 of those characters, you're going to need this animation system to be retargeted to each of those. So get the animations that exist and multiply them by 100, and that's how much memory, that's how many animations are going to be in memory. And the size of that is going to vary based off the animations. So this approach is probably by far the most scalable approach. But if you only need this for a couple of characters, then it may be the case that you just want to retarget this entire animation system to those, but it's still going to be quite a lot of work to do. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go over here to the right hand. Jesus Christ, this thing has so many bones. I'm just going to add a socket there, and I'm going to rename it to held object _R. And then we're just going to select him in here and then press play. And you'll see that right now, this character is not zeroed in. The socket hasn't been, the socket offset hasn't been applied to this, and there are some finger problems. I'll resolve those at a later date. But yeah, so this weekend I'm going to resolve all those problems. So we can cycle through these characters. Yeah, so it seems like there's a slight problem with the live retargeting data. I'll have to fix that over the weekend. I was going to show you the other one. But yeah, the Kellen guy, he is zeroed in. So I'll just go ahead and show you guys the Kellen. So if I open up the Kellen, actually, I've already created the socket for him, so I ought to be able to just, yeah, there we go. So you'll see he holds the rifle correctly. I'll fix the body example later. But yeah, once you've zeroed them in, they'll be fairly accurate. Now, I do have an auto aim on here right now. And 1 second after you stop firing, he'll automatically go back into the relaxed state. But I just seen another bug here where it seems like if I fire and I'm holding down the right mouse button, for some reason, it's going back into the relaxed state. It's not supposed to do that. I was pretty sure that problem was resolved, but apparently not. I'll have to fix that this weekend. But yeah, that's basically the rundown on it, guys. So yeah, I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll see you guys later.